My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped them generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Neil Patel, and today we're going to be talking about SearchGPT. So let's dive right in. I know a lot of you guys are curious about SearchGPT. How's this going to affect SEO? How's this going to affect marketing? And a lot is going to change. So let's dive right in. All right, awesome. Let's go to the next slide. So my name is Neil Patel. I'm the co-founder of NP Digital, and we also have Chris with us, and we have Scott with us. Chris, do you want to give a quick introduction of yourself, and then Scott, you can do the same?
Absolutely. I am Chris Hill. I run the content team for NPXL, NP Digital Small and Medium Business Division.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Scott Zimmerman, and I run our technical division here in the U.S. as our Associate Director of Tech SEO.
So NP Digital, we're a global ad agency. We have 1,000+ people that work for us. You want to go to the next slide, Chris? Awesome. So NP Digital, we have 1,000+ people, a lot of awards, work with a lot of different brands, and we get a lot of insights because of this. We have a lot of traffic. A lot of the platforms want to talk to us. We get a lot of insights just talking to companies like OpenAI or other marketers or reading, of course. And this is also how we know quite a bit about SearchGPT. Does this mean everything that we're going to present today is going to come true? No. The engineers can decide to change stuff, but we get a lot of our insights from just talking with these organizations and platforms. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the end result of SearchGPT 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Similar to Google, algorithms change over time. So imagine a world where AI doesn't just show answers, but it predicts questions, anticipates needs, and delivers personalized experiences in real time. It's kind of crazy. You're not going to see that from SearchGPT right away, but that's the goal in the long run, in which that is what should become reality, or at least that is their goal of reality in the long run. You know, it's when you look at Willy Wonka or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or whatever those movies are, where it's a false sense of reality, and it'd be really cool to be in, you know, these worlds like Neverland. Again, they're shooting for all of this. It's not going to be perfect from day one by any means, but it is going to become more and more of a reality as time goes on. And SearchGPT is here. So we're going to go over what to expect and how to adapt. Keep in mind platforms and what they decide to do can change, right? We get a lot of our insights from talking to people. But again, I'll give you guys an example with Google because more people can relate to Google because they use it. If I talk to a Google engineer about what they're doing with search, and we have many, many times, well, they have, I don't know, maybe 100-ish thousand employees. 60 of them could decide they want to go a different direction the next month and things can change. So what we have is based on what we're learning in real time.
Great. So I'm going to walk us through really what SearchGPT is born out of on the data side, stack it up against a couple of the common platforms we're all used to using, and discuss some of its features. So really by defining what it is at the start here, it's OpenAI's answer to the rising popularity of AI-driven search. And you can see on the right-hand side there a study we've conducted where, just 2 decades ago in 2000, 98% of the users relied primarily on search engines and for asking their questions. And in 2024, that numbers dropped to roughly 61%. And so got to ask ourselves what's driving the change, and it's really the rise in the AI powered tools and the ways that people are now searching for information differently. So we're excited to talk through what we know as we move into these next slides as far as the features and capabilities, and discuss a bit how marketers like ourselves can then leverage this moving forward into a new search landscape.
And one quick thing, that chart there, it's from 2020 versus 2024. So in 4 years, people have shifted how they end up searching. It also adds up more to 100% because people can use ChatGPT to do a search, or SearchGPT, as well as social media, as well as Google. It's not like they only use one platform.
Right. Thanks for the clarification. Neil, didn't mean to say the year 2000 there. Apparently, I'm thinking 2 decades ago. Great. We can go ahead and move to the next slide, Chris. All right. So what do we know so far? Just taking a look at this high level, we know that the user interface is going to prioritize easily scannable and detailed answers over the traditional format of providing multiple links. And that's really designed to offer more precise, more long tail search capabilities and making it ideal for more complex queries. It's currently set to be ad-free, which could provide a cleaner and more focused search experience. And really, one of the standout features is the integration for follow-up questions and making it much easier for users to dive into topics without having to start from scratch each time as they do approaching traditional search engines. Moving into what we think the capabilities have been stated and really where we think the strong suits will lie. We can take a closer look at the real-time information retrieval, which ensures that users are going to get the most current data available. Inline source attribution, which also makes sure that the transparency is there and making it clear where the information is coming from as users interact with the content. It's integrating multimedia seamlessly. It's much more dynamic for retrieving not just text, but also images and videos across other formats. And on top of that, it's going to provide publisher controls for content management, which allows you as a creator to maintain oversight on how that content is then being used. One of its standout features is going to be the personalized search experience. And so it tailors to individual user preferences and ideally provides more relevant results with each interaction and offering a much deeper scope and depth and a comprehensive view of information. And then again, rounding this out, the real-time feedback mechanism really enables the platform to improve by incorporating that user input and making the search experience refined over time, which is something that I think Google emulates and tries to do. But in this new format, it'll be awesome to see how OpenAI can really take what positives are of traditional search engines and move it forward into an AI landscape. All right, let's stack this up against just traditional search engines. And there are a couple of key differences. Really, with traditional search engines, we're relying heavily on keywords and providing link-based results from various sources, which obviously requires a user to click through and to learn more about each one of those articles. And the queries are really treated as isolated, so they don't carry over previous context from searches into the next session, essentially. And then in contrast, SearchGPT is going to leverage the AI to understand the context and the natural language better, potentially making it more intuitive. And it's going to have a conversational interface with summarized results from multiple sources, which is giving direct answers in the tool itself versus that user in a traditional search engine having to then browse through the links to get the information they need. So yeah, maintaining context across multiple interactions and really allowing for a more seamless experience with the added context across the board. All right. Comparing it to ChatGPT itself, there are a couple of fundamental differences here. Really, the primary purpose for both is, search focused, but then providing direct answers with citations for GPT, for Search GPT, whereas in ChatGPT, you're going to get more of a conversational AI approach for generating the text responses. On the information side of things, we know SearchGPT will rely on real-time web data, whereas GPT or ChatGPT currently relies on a preset data to train itself on, which may not always be current. For responses, SearchGPT is going to provide concise answers with source links, and the current ChatGPT platform is a little bit more flexible in its responses, including longer text and summaries. And then rounding that out with use cases, I think both are going to have their strong suits, of course, but SearchGPT ideal for research and fact checking on a more real-time basis, whereas the traditional GPT model is likely best for creative tasks, brainstorming, and drafting different pieces of content. All right, so now comparing it to the Google product that we're probably all somewhat familiar with at this point. But for AI overviews compared to SearchGPT, when we look at source attribution, GPT is going to provide more clear citations with direct links, making verification pretty easy on the information, while AI overviews can sometimes lack clear attribution, which can make it difficult to understand where that info is coming from. In the conversational experience, SearchGPT allows for follow-up questions and retains context, where AI overviews typically offer a one-off response without going into an ongoing interaction. Scope and depth, SearchGPT is going to pull from a wide range of sources, including multimedia, which is unlike AI overviews, which focuses more on much more brief summaries, and then links to provide more details. And then in summary here, as far as transparency and control, it seems as though SearchGPT is going to give us more control over how the content is used, while AI overviews is very limited in its transparency, and the content selection and usage can differ based on what Google's intent is behind serving that content versus your own publisher controls. And then just making this point here that SearchGPT is not the first AI search engine. We see more other popular platforms rising, like Perplexity, for example, which now generates over 50 million monthly visits. And again, this excels at the concise responses that focus on accuracy and brevity. And it's really important, or really useful rather, for straightforward queries where the speed in which you're getting that response is ultimately key for you. So yeah, those are some of the assumptions and predictions and really how we see it stacking up to what's currently in the landscape. And now we'll talk a little bit more about, what is ultimately going to reign true and reign supreme here as far as these platform concerns, because they have a bit of a battle going on at the moment.
What happens if we put all of these tools head to head? If we put SearchGPT and Google Search and Perplexity up against each other. The challenge here is that access to SearchGPT is still somewhat limited. So we leaned a little bit on Matthew Berman's, my goodness, really excellent YouTube video where he shook out some of the challenges or put through the paces each one of these different search tools to find out what types of search they excel in versus where they might struggle. So the first comparison that we wanted to highlight here is accuracy. Berman searched for who are the main presenters at the upcoming Dreamforce conference and why were they selected. Google provided links where you could go and find out who those presenters are and try to surmise why they were selected. SearchGPT's answer included several presenters that were from last year's event, but weren't presenting at the 2024 event. So not necessarily the most accurate answer. Perplexity's answer was accurate, but it wasn't really comprehensive, and it didn't quite go after the heart of the question, which is why were they selected? In another test, we looked at recency. How recent is the information that SearchGPT has access to? So Berman looked for, show me the newest video of Unitree's robot from this morning. He did this on August 19th, 2024. Google found it immediately, bang, right out of the gate. Perplexity knew about the video, but it didn't pick the right one. And SearchGPT couldn't find the video at all, no matter how hard he tried. So recency may still be something that's in the works for SearchGPT. And finally, he looked at integrations. He searched for flights to Europe, December 12th through the 20th, to see just how much information SearchGPT and Perplexity were able to give. Google, of course, found specific flight information, could tell you exactly the dates and the airlines and even the prices for various flights during that window. SearchGPT and Perplexity both provided a list of airlines where you could go do your own digging. So in terms of integrations, his conclusions were that those flights to Europe, or that those integrations are just not there yet. So what do each one of these tools do that outpaces their peers? Well, simply put, if you've got a question that needs an answer, it looks like an AI search tool might be your best way to go. You put in your question and you'll get a detailed answer that's more or less correct. But if you need specific information, or if you want to find a website where you can find more information, then Google is still the go-to, at least at this point. But
and to add on to that, you're also looking at if it's something related to recency, like something that just happened and you want information, the chances are you're going to find that on Google before any of the AI search platforms, because Google just has a massive infrastructure for crawling. I'm not saying Perplexity or SearchGPT won't get there. Just right now, it is not there.
Absolutely. In fact, in that video, when he asked himself which of these search tools he would pick if he could only use one for the whole rest of his life, he said Perplexity, except that he would really miss all of the recency features in Google, which is complicated. The other thing that we have to remember with any AI model, and particularly with SearchGPT in its current iteration, is that we have to watch for hallucinations of fact, just like we have in ChatGPT. The fact is that AI tools are going to provide incorrect answers with 100% confidence. So you've got to really do some work as a user to vet the information that you're getting. For example, he searched for music festivals in Boone, North Carolina in August and came up with the Appalachian Summer Festival, which gives the dates of July 29th to August 16th. But the festival only ran June 29th through July 27th. So the dates are completely wrong, but presented with absolute authority. What we've got to remember is that it's still early days for SearchGPT. The tool is still very much in progress. We're not sure exactly the release date yet. Just like Google's AI overviews, tweaks are going to be needed to improve the experience over time. We're going to see changes and updates, and before it's released out of prototype mode, hopefully some of these things are going to be ironed out.
And my quick take on it is SearchGPT, Perplexity, any of these solutions aren't going to be anywhere near what most people are going to be happy with searching. And the reason I say that is when you search, you won't be happy if 5 or 10% of the time something is off. It's just going to be too much, and people just expect it to be accurate 100% of the time. It's like self-driving cars. The technology is great. I was at dinner yesterday and someone tells me, Yeah, the problem with the Tesla self-driving car is, and this guy's a loyal Tesla follower and only buys Teslas. He says like roughly once every 60 minutes of using it, it has an error and issues in which it can cause something that would be somewhat dangerous. These were his words, not mine. I don't drive a Tesla. And the problem is when you're using self-driving, it can't be right 99% of the time or even 99.9% of the time. It needs to be correct 100% of the time, or else it's dangerous. With search, sure, you don't have to be right 100% of the time, and Google isn't right 100% of the time. But people are not used to typing in what are the dates for an event and then booking flights and then being like, wait, you gave me wrong dates, and people are just going to be pissed. You can't have inaccuracies like this. This is why Google AI overviews went from showing for a lot of results to very little results. You can't have it where it's just inaccurate. And what you're going to end up seeing is these platforms, you'll get all the craze at the beginning of people talking about how amazing they are, and they're going to stop using Google or Bing or whatever result out there or platform. And then slowly they're going to start migrating back to what they're used to until these platforms can figure out how to make the results perfect. And they're really, really far from this, and it's not easy to do. You're not going to see this happen in the next 12 months, just being realistic.
All right, so now we're going to talk through, one of the larger questions I think a lot of us have asked ourselves for quite some time now, and it's really, you know, is Google's monopoly, which it effectively was deemed by a court as such, is it about to crumble? Now that's a bit dramatic, and we're going to go into sort of why that's going to be very difficult to unseat them, but nonetheless, we'll explore, some data that's indicating that, they're weakening as far as the market share hold, and the options for consumers have never been more plentiful for higher quality results. So let's jump right in. Like we said, the time to claim search market share is now, but let's not forget really just who the biggest player is here and why. So as you can see, Google continues to dominate the market share. It's over 91% at this stage, and it's really been that way for quite some time. But in August, a judge did rule that Google engaged in anti-competitive practices to maintain its lead in search, which in theory can open the door for more competition and could produce a more balanced competitive set of search competitors. But for businesses, it's really a critical time to rethink search strategies in general, as Google faces more scrutiny for regulatory change and internal pressure to launch these new competitive AI products. It's really unlikely that we will see them retain that 91% here heading into the next decade. It's just going to bifurcate the different platforms too much, and the quality of results appear to be increasing significantly in their competitors, which is always a positive thing for us as the consumer. So we'll get into some of the reasons why it's going to be so difficult to unseat them, and how dethroning them is really an uphill battle. Go ahead, Chris, to the next slide if you're ready. So let's just talk about these three pillars here for a second. For the most part, outside of your very savvy users who have been paying attention to the way results rank for a decade, Google leads in terms of satisfaction, and it's even gone up by a point compared to 2023, whereas other sources, DuckDuckGo, Bing, Yahoo. I'm actually shocked Yahoo had a result that high, to be quite frank, but they're obviously a bit lower. Google enjoys a very default status, as it's maintained as the default search engine across most devices. And it's also, a massive contract between Chrome and Apple in order for that to be featured as the default on iOS as well as an option. And then the privacy and data concerns, the adoption of new search tools like SearchGPT could potentially be slowed by privacy and data usage concerns among consumers, where they aren't sure how their data in the platform is actually going to be used. Whereas, the policies of Google and otherwise have been out in the ether for decades, and it's more well understood versus what we're seeing today. So how does that actually manifest itself into some of the skepticism and what we're seeing on the actual web? If we jump into the next slide here, we'll see that it's already something that publishers have some concern about. Looking at just the amount of information there is to crawl on the web, it won't help SearchGPT at all if publishers are blocking OpenAI from actually consuming that content. And you can really see here, some of the largest publishers are already doing it, whether it's the New York Times or Wired, they're blocking OpenAI from scraping their content, which if it's at all similar to how the indexing system or simply the retrieval process works, that will limit their performance ultimately in the actual tool if it can't retrieve their content. And that might result in, for example, if the New York Times isn't allowing the content, well, then the Washington Post is. You're probably going to get more sources from them if it's available. So it's important to keep these things in mind. And I think a lot of this skepticism will die off eventually when marketers realize, okay, the potential is here to generate meaningful traffic. We're not just going to block this access because we're worried about what they might do. Generally speaking, these platforms are good citizens of the web. And so I don't really think there's anything to worry about from a technical standpoint as a large publisher, even a small business, and letting these bots crawl your websites. So important to set the stage on that we do even see some skepticism to begin with, but hopefully launching the products like SearchGPT will open up publishers' minds to making the content more accessible.
And Scott nailed it. There's no need to block. Let them crawl. You're just missing out potential traffic and brand awareness. In this case, I bet you OpenAI somehow is still getting access to New York Times' data because so many people scrape the New York Times website, and then OpenAI will crawl those sites, which aren't blocked. But funny enough, I bet you in the future there'll be losses with this saying, hey, we blocked OpenAI from crawling us, but yet you guys have our content. It's because someone else scraped the New York Times and then OpenAI crawled that site.
Yep. So when in doubt, just let it crawl. Most of these types of bots are not malicious and really can do no harm. So no need to panic over these things. All right. And so really, what does this mean in general for the customer journey? And, we hear every year SEO is dead or it's not dead, but it's certainly not obsolete. It's just really becoming omnipresent. And so there are numerous touch points across different platforms where purchases are made. And you can see sort of in that illustration, their path to purchase might not always start with Google. It may, but it might incorporate other paths. So like TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, and even through the Amazon marketplace. And, just for me personally, I've watched how my search behavior does evolve this way, where I know where to start certain searches depending on what I'm looking for. And looking at it beyond just Google in terms of SEO is, I think, really the important point we're trying to emphasize here, where search engines remain critical, but consumers are gathering information from a wide variety of channels, and social communities and Reddit can become, just as powerful as things like SearchGPT are introduced as well. So yeah, we're very much away from the traditional approach, and now we span beyond the search engine UI really to get in front of that consumer. And so with that, there are really, two things to keep in mind as we're moving forward. And we can jump to the next one, Chris, if you're ready. And the first is people will always search for information, whether it's through a search engine, social media, an AI tool. Like, the behavior of searching is here to stay. And second, really, businesses will always need to optimize their content to stay visible. What's changing, though, is really the scope of that. And we're moving just from search engine optimization to what we call search everywhere optimization, which hits back at sort of the diagram we alluded to on the last slide. It's no longer just about ranking on Google. It's about optimizing for all of the platforms where people search, from AI chatbots to social media and beyond. And so that's what we're most excited for, is really this transition from just search engines to everywhere people search.
So I know a lot of us are wondering, how in the world do we write content for visibility in this new landscape? The good news is that the answers might be less complicated than you suspect. First of all, we've got to understand that you're dealing with a large language model. So the same as we have been with ChatGPT. So if you've been listening to what we've been saying and to what the industry has been saying about optimizing your content on your website to be found within AI overviews or ChatGPT, then you're already well on your way. The key to optimizing for a large language model is making your content and brand more recognizable and more favorable in the eyes of an AI model. And we've got some proven strategies for doing this work. Number one, content depth is the new king. AI-driven search tools prioritize content that gives the user what they want, particularly content that's contextually relevant, that's high-value information rather than just keyword optimization. We've been saying this for some time now, that if you're writing content just for the keywords, you're missing what Google's been looking for, and consequently, you're missing what the large language models are looking for. So create comprehensive content that dives deep into topics and covers the user intent holistically. If you're writing informational content, give information. Next, acquire mentions and reviews. If you want authority in the large language model, you need authority in the same ways that you've been building brand authority all along. You want to build your recognition through digital PR with journalists and bloggers and influencers. You want to work on positive brand mentions and increase your likelihood of being recommended by AI's tools like ChatGPT and SearchGPT and AI overviews. The more authority you have, the more likely that language model is to view your information as useful. Establish a Wikipedia page for added authority and visibility in large language models. The more information you can give the LLM to figure out that you know what you're talking about, the more likely it is that when it goes looking for the answers to the questions that it's asked, that it will pull your content. Next, incorporate relevant keywords. Use tools like Ubersuggest to identify relevant keywords that users might ask. But not just the trends, do follow the trends and the keyword trends, but put those together with questions that your users might be asking. Write content that answers those questions. Integrate those keywords into your content for better recognition by AI-driven search. And align that content with user queries for improved relevance and discoverability. If you're answering a question and a user goes to SearchGPT and asks that question, there's a much better chance that your content is going to be elevated into that answer with a link directly to your content. Next, focus on quality. Because if those answers are low quality, the language model will theoretically identify that lack of quality, lack of authoritativeness, lack of trustworthiness. Focus on EEAT, just like you have been with SEO for the past couple of years. Experience, expertise, authority, trustworthiness. Write content that's useful for your reader. Ensure your content is detailed, that it's accurate, and provides genuine value with expert commentary. Use citations, use pro and con lists, use data points. Following the commentary on this webinar, folks have said, hey, remember those comparison lists that we used earlier? You really liked those. Use those in your copy. Use those in your content. Give the AI search the chance to find your answer. And cover your topics comprehensively. Increase your authority and citation potential in LLMs by being thorough, by thinking through what the user might be looking for and answering their questions. Structure your content for easy digestibility. Summarize your key takeaways right at the top of long-form content. I know that sounds counterintuitive. That feels like you're going to be challenging your time on page. But really, if you're giving a summary, a TLDR right at the top, then that gives the LLM the chance to grab that snippet and use it and cite you. Include executive summaries and closing summaries to enhance clarity. Structure user-friendly content because that's so much more likely to be found by AI models. Speaking of users, encourage user-generated content. Authentic user experiences increase the chances of being cited by LLMs. So look for things like reviews and comments and forum posts, and encourage your users to submit user-generated content in a way that you can quote them and cite them back. The more information you can give these large language models to know that your information is accurate and interesting, the more likely it is for that AI to grab that and elevate it into the answer. And follow technical SEO best practices. Go now and resolve any crawling or indexing issues with your website. Keep your server response times below 500 milliseconds and optimize your script execution. Use schema markup to structure content for better AI interpretation. Tell the AI who you are and what you're doing, and make sure that your site is going as quickly and as effectively as your site is capable of functioning. Keep your content up to date, friends. Keep content updated to signal activity, to say, hey, we're working on it. We're updating information. That will help with relevance to AI models. That will help them to find your information because they know that you've been working with it. Regularly refresh your content with new posts and updated info and timely industry insights. Include both initial publish and last updated dates for credibility.
All right, so now let's talk about envisioning the future of search marketing. Look, SearchGPT isn't just the next step in search, it's the new paradigm that'll revolutionize how marketers engage with audiences. And they're doing so many things, or trying to do so many things. Eventually, if you fast forward, 3-4 years, I really do believe it's going to be an amazing product. You just can't look at it based on what you see today. Just like when ChatGPT first came out, it wasn't bad, but it's nowhere near as good as what we see today, right? It just takes time to build these amazing products. Google has been around for over 20 plus years. It's not like people snap their fingers and all of a sudden everything is great. It takes time to build great companies. So the first thing I want to talk about is engagement driven ranking. You're going to start seeing a lot of other factors, such as with social networks, they're looking on things like how long do you watch a video? How many comments did that post get? How many social shares did it get? How long are they sticking on platform? And search is moving towards this dynamic engagement model, and they're really looking at interactions. And it's not just search GPT, it's all search engines. And the reason I say that is if you look at Google, a lot of times you're seeing videos above the fold. When a video is above the fold, it's the most clicked element. It's more clicked than paid ads. It's more clicked than any other organic listing. They're showing short form videos. They're ranking podcasts, right? Search is changing not just into, hey, we're listing out AI results. Search is changing into, hey, we're taking content of all different types. We're not just looking at signals like backlinks, because some of these types of content pieces, like an Instagram post or a TikTok post or a YouTube post, they're less likely to have backlinks than, let's say, a traditional blog post that you may be used to. So they had to look at other models to figure out how to rank different types of content as well. And content customization and personalization will really be out there. What's cool with OpenAI as a whole organization, people are using it to really help them understand data, insights about not just their business, but their life. There was a PhD who once said, what ChatGPT did in a matter of seconds, it would take, my students hours and hours, and it even wouldn't be as accurate as what ChatGPT did. So when you think about OpenAI, when you're pushing out data into ChatGPT, OpenAI, any of the other products, right? You bet you in the long run, this is going to help SearchGPT better give you or help better understand what you're looking for and customize the solutions and the answers more towards you. And just think about that for a minute, right? When you're using SearchGPT, it can also, in the long run, end up being a way to search and just gather data just for you. If you think about what Apple is doing with their Apple Intelligence, I don't know if you guys saw, I will be able to bust out my iPhone 16. I don't have one yet. No one does. Or maybe Tim Cook does, but the rest of us don't. And literally be able to ask Siri a question. Hey, do you remember that picture that was taken of these kids in a playground jumping and doing some somersaults? You know, I'm making it up. Can you go find that image and just show it to me? Right? Search, as Scott mentioned, is search everywhere optimization. And you're going to start seeing more and more of this, in which these platforms are trying to organize information that's not just on the web. They're trying to organize information everywhere, including the information in your head, and personalize the experience towards to you and tailor the results to what they know you want to see. You also have AI enhanced multi-model search, in which not everything is just going to be text-based. You're going to have visual, you're going to have auditory, the list goes on and on. This is really important because people don't realize the power of voice search, but yet a lot of people do it. I'm not talking about just Alexa. I'm talking about you talking to your phone or your car when you're driving and it giving you the answer. I'm talking about when you're talking to your phone and it just performs the search for you. These are all instances of search, but people don't perceive them as search. And you're going to start seeing much more visual and auditory search. And you're going to have to start optimizing for a lot of different input types to give them the output type that you want. And the output type hopefully will involve your company, your products, your services. And then you have proactive and predictive content discovery. Look, just like how when you're logged into Chrome, they understand you because of your usage on Chrome from your phone or your Android device, Chrome from your browser, Google Analytics, Google Data Studio, Search Console, Gmail, your YouTube browsing, to really understand how to adjust the results to you. And you're going to start seeing more and more of that with SearchGPT as well, because they'll learn from your behaviors and patterns. Great example from this, Alexa does as well. When I was searching for Alexa the other day, I was searching, hey, can you order me chocolate? All right. And when I asked Alexa that question, the first thing they showed me was protein bars chocolate flavor. And it was spot on. Normally, when you would ask someone for chocolate, they would show you chocolate candy. I myself travel every single week, and when I'm on the go, I tend to forget to eat, or sometimes my schedule's just jam packed. So I'll eat these protein bars or these weight gainer bars to maintain my weight, because like I'll go to places like Brazil and I'll lose 3-4 pounds in a week and I'm already really skinny. So I eat these bars to at least try to maintain or keep my weight, in at least I hope to, right? But that's an example of these platforms understanding past patterns and then adapting to, when you ask a question, how do you show this person exactly what they're looking for? And when it comes to enhancing SEO, yes, there's going to be a ton of possibilities out there. You don't want to block these platforms from crawling you. It just gives you another opportunity to improve your visibility and drive more traffic to your website. If you decide that you want to block them, you don't want to let them use your information, that's fine. But for 99.9% of businesses, even these big companies that were worth billions of dollars, they're not a New York Times. And what I mean by that is New York Times gets massive traffic. Most of us do not have that luxury. You want more eyeballs to your site, and whether you like it or not, people are going to use SearchGPT. Is it going to be more popular than Google? Probably not. Is it going to be less, or is it going to be popular enough with billions of users over time? Probably. But it doesn't matter if it's more popular than Google or not. All that matters is this is another platform for you to potentially get more customers from. If you don't do this, your competition is, so you don't want to miss out. And maximizing ROAS, right? You're going to want to use real-time data and predictive analytics to create more targeted and effective ad campaigns. You bet you, the moment SearchGPT gets popular enough, it's ad-free right now, but what's going to happen in the long run? They're going to throw on those ads and make money. It doesn't matter what you want to call the organization, a nonprofit, a for-profit, they're making money one way or another, and they already started with ChatGPT, and they will make money from this. It's just like Threads saying, oh, there's no ads on Threads. Yeah, because you don't have the user base. The moment Facebook has enough users, what are they going to do? They're going to throw on ads. That's what they all do. It's business. You also want to focus on boosting social media engagement. Look, SearchGPT has conversational abilities to enhance social media engagement. And the way you can do this is you can end up using SearchGPT to help analyze and understand what's working and what's not working. You can track social sentiment, and then you can adjust your strategies to create more of the stuff that people want versus the stuff that people aren't engaging with. Remember, search is everywhere, and these platforms are all starting to look alike. Google isn't just a traditional search result with links. They have social content. They have podcast information. All these platforms are going to look more and more similar over time, in which they're just going to gather information from everywhere. They have their partnerships, and you need to optimize all content for all channels. Email marketing is another thing that you can end up leveraging some of these tools with. You can deliver highly relevant and personalized email content using insights generated by no other than SearchGPT. People look at email as boring and ugly, but yet MailChimp was bought for, I believe, $11 billion or somewhere around there. Email is not dead. Anyone who works in the corporate world, a lot of those people have money to spend and own houses and are rich. They use email. It's not dying. It's like people saying SEO is dying, yet they still search on Google. You also want to use these tools to elevate your customer experience, right? You can deploy AI chatbots powered by SearchGPT to handle common customer queries and guide them throughout the flow of the product and help them make decisions and give them personalized recommendations. These tools are going to improve your user experience on your website, but they can also be used not just to interact with people, but motivate them and slowly nudge them on becoming customers. And that's very important. Having people on your website or attracting visitors is one thing, but if you can't convert them, it doesn't matter. And using these tools to enhance the experience shall help you with this in the long run. And then, of course, you have AI enhanced analytics. Look, there's data everywhere. Using these tools can just not only help integrate all your data into one place, but it can help you search and get insights quicker and adjust in real time. The number one thing that we see as an ad agency is the biggest waste is people spend money in advertising in places that just don't drive conversions. If everyone focused on fine tuning that, they would save billions and billions and billions of dollars. I don't know what the exact number is. I was reading a report. I don't know if it was by eMarketer, but it was by one of the marketing research firms. Over $100 billion in ad spend is wasted each and every single year. Over $100 billion. That's a ridiculously high number. So next up for marketers. Well, you don't want to underestimate the last mover advantage. Peter Thiel talks a lot about this. You guys should look at this. Most people believe, oh, first mover advantage is everything. Google wasn't the first search engine. Facebook wasn't the first social network, right? YouTube wasn't the first video social network. Most people don't know that. There was a few players that went through earlier, got bloody, had to deal with lawsuits, and it paved the way for YouTube. Most of the big businesses we see weren't the first. Apple isn't the first cell phone manufacturer, right? Last mover advantage is amazing because you can learn from everyone else and the mistakes, especially if the market's fragmented, and then figure out what you need to do to become the winner. And SearchGPT will become more and more popular, and you need to leverage it and don't take it for granted or don't underestimate it, even though Google will be more popular for, the near future or foreseen future. And keep your eye on new trends. Stay ahead of emerging technologies like SearchGPT. There's going to be more and more figure out how you can take advantage of them, monitor industry thought leaders and communities. I recommend that you attend events because that's great networking and you'll gain a lot of insights. There's going to be too many tools for you to deploy, but once more and more people are talking about them, start testing them out, and of course, build strategic partnerships with people in the space. So key takeaways, look, one, adaptability is the key. You need to be able to adapt, just like people talk about social networks like Clubhouse and then they go away, but you need to adapt if something is getting traction. You need to be optimizing for being omnipresent, not just one channel. This is why we call SEO now search everywhere optimization instead of search engine optimization. And you need to embrace new opportunities that'll help you thrive, but don't embrace them the day they come out. Embrace them when they start getting traction. If you start embracing all of them when they start coming out, you're going to be overwhelmed and you're going to find you wasted a lot of time. So if you need help with AI and getting your business ready for SearchGPT or any other of these other AI platforms and making sure you're doing search everywhere optimization instead of just search engine optimization, scan that QR code with your phone and it'll end up pulling up a link. You can end up just visiting the site, fill out your information, and you can end up talking to someone on our team. It's free. It doesn't cost any money. We'll analyze your business for free and then break down what you can do to fix things. And if you want to work with us, then work with us. But hey, at least you talked to us and got some free insights, worst case. And we also have a virtual summit that's coming up soon. You can scan the QR code. It's the future of marketing. The first few days of the summit are free. It doesn't cost money to attend the first 2 days. So sign up. You can get insights on what we're doing for our customers, as well as what some of the largest brands are doing to dominate digital marketing in today's world with the ever-changing landscape of AI. And this is our upcoming webinar. Last one before we get into Q&A. You can always scan the QR code if you want to join our next webinar. And it's you're wasting your time on email marketing, and we're going to break down the new approach to emails that is effective. All right, let's get into some questions.
Right on, right on. What a cool time to be a digital marketer. All of these things, all of these changes and opportunities, no shortage of questions. The first one, is there a time frame that we know of when SearchGPT will be available to everyone, the wider public? Do we know when all of this is coming, Scott, Neil?
Yes, I would say that it's coming out soon, but we really don't know. Actually, the answer is no, not yes. And the reason I say that is when people say they're going to end up releasing things doesn't mean they are. Just think of like Elon Musk saying a Cybertruck is going to come at a specific time. These products are really complicated and the solutions are tough.
Yeah, I think that's a big question mark. Another one, multiple people ask the same question. So where is SearchGPT getting their content? I mean, are they scouring Google's index? I mean, we know that you can block these tools. Or, I mean, are they crawling themselves? Are they getting their own content and using Bing or Google indexes? Like, where's all this information coming from?
So I don't believe they're scraping Google or Bing's indexes directly. So they have enough infrastructure to crawl on their own. They have their own user agents disclosed on the website into how they crawl. And so they're playing probably a bit of catch up, but consuming as much of the live information on the web as they possibly can via crawling. Now, whether or not they use their existing training data sets to also feed that on SearchGPT remains to be seen, because their claim of having the real-time information retrieval to me suggests that they're going to rely heavily on crawling websites in order to keep the information fresh and up to date. Whether or not they'll scrape the Google index or essentially do what your average rank tracker does, is put in a query and scrape the website's results and then crawl those URLs, remains to be seen. But it'll be some combination, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, I figured. There were a couple questions about publisher controls. Can publishers like opt out of showing up in SearchGPT? I mean, there are lawsuits, active lawsuits going on. Like, are you aware of any ways of sort of blocking certain pieces of content or just outright, blocking entire websites? Scott, maybe you're the best one for that.
So it's possible to block OpenAI from crawling the website, and we've sort of discussed some of the pitfalls for that. But I would say it's perfectly okay to let them consume that information. Colin, and for those who asked, that's really my stance on is let it crawl.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah,
There were a
you're gonna
couple
end
of
up losing out
comments.
if you don't let it crawl. Someone else is gonna end up taking up and getting that traffic. It's a big mistake. And
Right.
what you should also keep in mind is if you block them and these scraper sites crawl you, and then OpenAI crawls them, someone's gonna end up getting your content one way or another. I know that sounds like a roundabout way. OpenAI is not intentionally just trying to crawl these scraper sites. It's just hard because so many people scrape sites these days, sadly.
Yeah, Wild West. So there were lots of questions about personalization and localization, like near me type queries. Google's always been really good at that. Neil, I mean, you mentioned Gmail, search history, all these other platforms, Search Console, Google Analytics. Like, do we know if like proximity or any sort of personalization might find their way into the SearchGPT results? Maybe start with Neil, and anyone can sort of pile on to that.
Yeah, actually, Scott may be better for answering this one, actually.
Yeah, I think inherently they will have to localize the results, whether that's the user actually specifying it. So, music festivals in Colorado, this summer, or they're actually assuming it from your IP address. I tend to lean more towards the user's query will define the localization and what ultimately comes out of SearchGPT. But there may be instances where you can search festivals, near me, and then it will populate that. But I think they're probably trying to keep it more simple than we think. And part of the purpose in coming there and asking a question is you get to define those parameters as a user, and it saves your context. So whether it localizes things from the get-go when you say, can you find music festivals near me, or you're actually defining it in the actual city will depend. But it'll be interesting to see if they actually take the user's location into consideration from the get-go and don't prompt for it.
Yeah, time for one more. I think, Chris, you mentioned that content depth is king. Does that mean that long form content is also king and or queen? Like, is content a big part of success in SearchGPT?
Yes, but that's a sort of a qualified yes. Definitely long form content like blogs should continue to drive results. However, we're seeing a little bit of drop off already in terms of traffic to super long form content, like 3,000 word wall of words sorts of blogs. Keep in mind that when ChatGPT and their SearchGPT are pulling answers from things, they're only pulling smaller moments. So if your content, long form content, is structured really well with proper header structures, answering questions, that's still going to be pulled. But if you're writing 3,000 words of general interest copy, that may not perform as well as like a 1,000-word answer to a question copy.
Got it. And so schema would probably be important as a part of
Absolutely
all
right.
this too, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's all we have time for. The video replay will be available and shared with everyone that attended. Good stuff.
And if you guys need help with your marketing, you can scan the QR code, or you can just go to npdigital.com. We would love to help you guys out when it comes to optimizing for SearchGPT or any of the other platforms out there. Thank you guys for your time. I know we didn't answer as many questions as we wanted to, but we ran out of time, sadly, and we do appreciate you guys giving us, the time of the day.
My name is Neil Patel, and I help companies generate more revenue through digital marketing. Entrepreneur Magazine said I was the #1 marketer in the world, and they also said I created one of the 100 most brilliant companies. I started my first website at the age of 16. I took all the money that I earned from working at an amusement park, and I paid a marketing firm. The marketing firm provided no results, and I quickly learned that I wasn't alone. Out of my frustration and from being broke, I had no choice but to learn marketing. My first client was a power supply manufacturer. I helped him generate another $25 million in sales, and from that point, I realized the power of marketing. I helped everyone that I could, and I built my reputation by being honest and over-delivering. I've helped companies like Google, NBC, Viacom, General Motors, eBay, but nothing's more satisfying than helping small business owners succeed. I founded 4 multi-million-dollar companies, and I've learned all the mistakes that you should avoid. I've written about them on Forbes, Entrepreneur, Inc., Fast Company, and even on my own blogs. It's so awesome to know that colleges from all around the world are teaching my material in their classroom. Over the years, I've received awards from the President of the United States, the House of Representatives, and the United Nations. People believe marketing is expensive and difficult. Fortunately, that's not true. There is a formula. Even if you don't have a technical bone in your body, you can get results. And my mission is to share this formula with you.